Hello and welcome to this video tutorial on the Geometric Brushes filter, now available in 4DFX. Before watching this video, please make sure to watch the introduction video on the brushes in 4DFX, which explains the base workflow and how to use the common parameters. First, let's talk about the use cases for the geometric brushes. One of the main use cases is the correction of local geometric artifacts. Due to our photogrammetric technology, when filming a sequence using the holosys, some geometric artifacts may appear when there is occultation. The holosys may also produce some flickering when filming closes that are very dark. Some of these artifacts can be solved using the geometric brushes. Note that, even if it is possible to fix some problems in your sequences with the geometric brushes, you should aim, during the filming process with the holosys, to get the cleanest data possible. That is by following the filming guidelines and preparing your shoot in advance. The geometric brushes also enable you to make various other types of modifications to your data. For example, you could do some light alteration of the shape of your model. Also note that to better visualize the modifications when using those tools, it is recommended to switch the viewer to shaded mode. Now, let's present the different brushes you can find in this geometric brushes filter. First, we have the Sculpt brush. This is, as the name implies, the default geometric brush that can be used to create new geometric details. You can apply it as any other brush using Ctrl left click. This will simply pull the vertices, as you can see. If you want to push them instead, you can change the direction parameter or use the shortcut Ctrl right click. In the same vein as Sculpt, we have Inflate, which I will talk about briefly. The only difference with Sculpt is that the vertices will be pushed along the direction of their local normals, which creates an inflating effect. To deflate instead, use the previously mentioned direction parameter, or the Ctrl right click shortcut. Now, let's talk about the brushes more fit for correction usages. First, we have the Smooth brush. This simple brush can be useful to fix small defects. As this is a frequently used brush, there is a shortcut to temporarily use it from any other brush. Simply press Alt left click to apply the Smooth brush without changing your current brush. Another very useful brush for correction, probably the most useful to remove geometric artifacts, is the Wipeout brush. With only one application of this brush, every vertex in range will be regularized, which will result in a smooth surface. Note that the brush cursor is a bit different for this brush, so that the exact vertices affected, those colored in green, are clearly visible. Let's try our correction brushes on this sequence. We have someone wearing a very dark jacket. This results in a not very pretty geometry. It isn't that problematic as we can't see the artifacts too much in texture mode, but it would cause problems when relighted. Let's use Wipeout to do the bulk of the work and Smooth for the details. Let's now process and look at the result. We can see that the geometry still isn't perfect, but it's better. It flickers less and it will give a better result when relighted. The Flatten brush can also be useful in some situations. As the name implies, this will make the surface more locally flat. Most of the time you can use Wipeout instead to flatten a surface. But this brush will give better results if you want to preserve some sharp edges, like on this object, for example. Now we have the Move brush, a brush that lets you make adjustments to your model's shape. For this brush in particular, it can be useful to switch the viewer back to texture mode. It works by grabbing a piece of geometry you want to move and then dragging the cursor. For this brush, you can increase the focal parameter to preserve a rigid area. Finally, there is the Erase brush, which can be quite useful. This will simply locally revert the modifications you made. For example, if I'm satisfied with this part of my modifications, but not that part, I can just remove this part, which would not be doable by using Ctrl Z. This is another frequently used brush, so there is also a shortcut to access it temporarily. Simply press Alt right-click to apply it without changing your current brush. Here is a list of shortcuts to quickly access any brush. The pattern is always to press the B key, which stands for brushes, and then the first letter of the brush's name. The main exception would be BD, which, for all brush clips, corresponds to the default brush, in this case the sculpt brush. The geometric brushes in 4DFX have two main limitations. Firstly, there is no retopology available. This means that you won't be able to add geometric details that have more precision than the base mesh. It also means that some geometric artifacts can't be fixed using the brushes. For example, this topological hole, which is the result of some wrong settings in the use of the holosys, cannot be filled using any of the brushes. The only way to fix this kind of artifact would be to correct the settings on the holosys side. Once again, we insist that even though you can fix some artifacts using the brushes, having a well-planned shoot and correctly adjusting the holosys settings is essential for producing high-quality volumetric data. The second main limitation is the propagation of your modifications during the process of a brush filter. This is usually a bigger problem for the texture brushes filter, but as you can see in this example, if your model moves a lot, your brush modifications may end up drifting during the propagation. When removing an artifact using the brushes, you may also find that it hasn't been perfectly removed in every frame of your sequence. In this case, the recommended workflow would be to add new geometric brushes filters below the first one, just on the sections where the artifact is still visible, and do the correction once again. You can continue adding new brush filters and doing small corrections until you are satisfied with the results. That's all for this tutorial. Detailed explanations on the other brush filters are available in the next videos.